Hi everybody, welcome to Steve the Missionary's How's Your Prayer Life, a monthly series where we start a conversation about prayer, prayer intentions, and what's happening in your prayer life. Today I'm really excited and honored to host a guest, Matt Baker. He's from the Roman Circus podcast. They come out with a new episode every week. You can find that anywhere you download podcasts or in our show notes. He's also a really great guy, and I want to introduce you to him. So Matt, how is your prayer life?
Hey Steve. All right, here's how my prayer life is going. Not as good as I want it to go. So about 2 months ago, I decided to leave Los Angeles, where I had lived for the past 9 years. And I spent most of that time packing, most of that time seeing people as I was, getting ready to leave, throwing things away. And what kind of happened was I stopped doing any reading. I would go to adoration, semi-frequently. I would still go to daily mass as much as I could, but I would found that the day-to-day stuff kind of lapsed a little bit. So now I'm out of Los Angeles. I'm back in Phoenix for a bit, trying to get back in the groove, and it's kind of tough. A priest once said to me that the worst thing for your spiritual life is to go on vacation, and I get what he was saying. Not that vacation is not a good idea or not fun, but when you get out of your groove, then things start to suffer. Well, I've never been good at meditation. If you've ever listened to the Roman Circus podcast, you would know that I talk about that. I almost can't meditate. It's very much a struggle for me. So to say that has gotten worse, I don't think it can get any worse. But yeah, I still pray in the morning, pray at night. It's just something to watch. Something when you get knocked out of your rhythm, things start to suffer, and that could be what you're doing spiritually. Now, I still do the rosary. I've kept up with that. That's kind of been the thing that I've told myself I will always do, and I can't not do, if that makes any sense. But yeah, so this is kind of the thing I've been dealing with lately. So if anyone's watching this, of course people are watching this, tons of people are watching this, if you're ever kind of knocked out of your rhythm, you're kind of, in a new spot, just be careful because things can start to suffer, and that could be your prayer life. So one of the big intentions I've had recently, I like to pray for my family and friends who have left the church that they come back, and my family and friends who have not entered the church that they come in. I'll, work specifically in my own life with individuals, but mainly I like to pray for that, because it's just, I don't know, it's one of the most important things. I guess we could pray for success for our friends and family, but what is success if you don't have the spiritual stuff down, am I right? So that's an intention I would ask. Focus on the people who have left the church or who are not in the church in your own life, and to try and be the Saint Monica to the Saint Augustine for them.
Matt, thank you so much for sharing, and thank you for starting this conversation. My prayer life has been a lot better than it used to be, and I chalk that up to a couple things. The first is changing my situation and making sure to center my new situation around prayer. When I quit my job, I was quitting a situation that was not centered around prayer at all, and getting myself out of there because it was possible for me. That's not always possible for people. And then when I put myself in my new situation, I made sure to keep some time at the beginning of every day for prayer. And I'll talk about what I'm praying about a little later, but I made sure that every morning is about prayer. So I went from praying almost never to praying every other day to almost praying every day, which is a huge change for me. I think a lot of that had to do with the way I kickstarted the whole thing. When I quit my job, I went on a retreat as a way to kind of forget my old work, start my new work, and to kickstart my spiritual life. And instead of going on a planned retreat or a guided retreat, I basically rented a room in the guest house of a monastery for 5 days and kind of just prayed there. And I had a lot of help from this book right here, The Way of the Pilgrim and The Pilgrim Continues His Way. I super duper recommend this book. It's all from the Eastern Christian tradition. It's a Russian Orthodox book originally, but it has a lot to say to Christians of all kinds. And I've really just taken it to heart. This has been my spiritual reading for a while now. And I started at that monastery praying the Jesus prayer a lot, and I've carried that into my prayer today. Nowadays, I spend only a half hour in prayer, and I don't actually make it to my nearby church, which is like a half-hour drive in the morning. I said pray at home, and I sit in front of like an icon, and I read something. Right now I'm reading the Introduction to the Devout Life, which I just started, but until very recently it was The Way of the Pilgrim, and the Pilgrim Continues His Way. And I read, and then I pray the Jesus prayer for a half hour. And I only do that to be in the presence of God. And I do my best to empty my mind of distraction and worry. And the last few chapters of this, or the last chapter of this, is quotations from the Eastern Fathers. And they're crazy meditative. And so you were talking about meditation. I would say read some of the Eastern Fathers about how much they talk about focusing on your breathing, and how much they talk about centering yourself and moving your mind down to your heart, and ways I had not heard Christians talk about prayer before. And it was really enlightening to me. So I think that we could all benefit from this tradition of prayer in the church. And it's not imaginative like I'm used to. It is meditation in kind of the mindfulness sense, but it truly centered on Christ, especially when you're doing it with the Jesus prayer, and especially when you're doing it when you're praying with iconography. So that is the prayer life that I'm living right now. It's been an extreme blessing for me, and I'm really, really happy about it. Things that I ask you to pray for. I mean, honestly, it is the success of this channel, or at the very least, the success of things like this, the success of the entrance of the Christian message, of the gospel message, into the broader internet platforms, so that the gospel is at least part of the conversation that happens online. That's the prayer. And of course, my faithfulness and diligence in the work, which is really the only thing that I can pray for. I think you mentioned in your podcast, as much success or material success as divine providence allows, but until then, all of the diligence, hard work that I am called to. Just pray that I fulfill that. That's what I need my prayer for. And for my grandparents who are just, getting older. What's the reward in prayer is that, I think someone mentioned it before, when you pray, everything else happens faster. I don't know how, but prayer really does anchor your day so that you are able to do all the things of that day because you centered on God first. So that's the first kind of benefit of prayer. It doesn't mean I get everything done, but it does mean that because my work in the day has been put into perspective, that it gets done. It happens in a way that is shocking to me. That's what's benefiting me for my prayer. So thank you for continuing this conversation. And Matt, where can people find you?
Check me out on the Roman Circus podcast. I do that with the great Zach Mabry. We're at Roman Circus Pod. I'm at Hey, it's Matt Baker. Follow us on Twitter. Let us know what's going on. You can listen to the episode we did with Steve about a month ago. But yeah, thanks everyone. Hope your prayer lives are going well. Talk to you on the internet.
Okay, everybody, now it's your turn. What are you praying about? How are you praying? What are you praying for? What do you want us to pray for? And what recommendations do you have? What are you reading to pray for? Please comment about that. Please talk to each other about prayer. If we want to make any sort of difference in this world, we need to be a community that prays together and talks about our prayer with each other. I've already done this in collaboration with a few people, and it is an honor to be able to hear and to be able to engage in each other's prayer life. So please honor each other in letting people see your prayer life, and tread lightly on each other's prayer life. You are treading on holy ground when people reveal to you what they are praying about. So please continue this conversation in the comments, and I will see you guys on Thursday.